My name is and today we're featuring the 19th annual Zwakala Community Theatre Festival here at the Market Theatre Lab in Johannesburg. Our first guest on the show is Professor Malcolm Perky, who is the Artistic Director at the Market Theatre and is also currently directing a show called From the Mouths of Babes. Let's hear from him about the inception of such a festival. Silapha eMarket Theatre ukili and ewenisabukele ukhetha call. Namhlanje igest yokuqala Mr. Malcolm Perky, oyi-Artistic Director apha eMarket Theatre. Good day, Malcolm.
Hello, how are you?
I'm great, thanks. Please tell us about your role here at the Market Theatre as the Artistic Director.
My job as Artistic Director is to basically curate the program. We do about 25 plays a year, projects in 3 venues, and we produce some of them from scratch, meaning we put up all the money. Often we are in co-production, partnership, or we are merely available to rent. But my job is to try to ensure that we have a program of quality that talks to our various audiences, and we are a very interesting place because although our majority audience is black and young and new generation, we actually have projects for everybody in Johannesburg. Depending on what we do, there are very different audiences here. And that's how it works.
Oh, great. And Malcolm, since the Market Theatre has always been associated with challenging the apartheid regime and providing a voice for the voiceless, how can you say this has changed since our democracy?
One of my challenges when I started here 8 years ago was that this is an amazing, world-renowned theatre. Founded in 1976 in the same London as the Soweto Uprising, it was a place which became absolutely the place of the living newspaper, a place where everybody could come and see their lives without restriction, without censorship, and the stories that emerged here in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s were extraordinary. My job is to try to understand how to speak to the new generation and in the new times, post-apartheid. But I actually believe that many of the issues that we faced before are still with us. We still have huge crisis in the country around unfairness of distribution of wealth. We have big crisis about who we are, identity. We are trying to invent a nation, and our job is to talk back to people and say, "Hey, have a look at yourself. Look."
Yes. And what do you think it inspires playwrights nowadays, since now we are in a democracy and apartheid is no longer the issue?
I think that like artists all over the world, we are moved by many things, by issues of identity, by issues of love, by issues of marriage, by issues of betrayal, by issues of growing vegetables, as we discussed. We're talking about an artists co-op to grow vegetables as we face the recession. And let's not forget that was essentially my idea, even if we make a lot of money out of it, and lots of vegetables.
You will get dividends.
I would just like some vegetables. So I just want all the carrots. Carrots and ginger juice.
Okay. So do you think that theatre is growing in South Africa?
You know, theatre is a very complex art and it's quite fragile all over the world. Peter Brook, the famous director, once said, all over the world theatre is dying, this is good, this is necessary, which is quite a shocking thing to say actually. But I suppose what he means is we have to think carefully about who we're talking to and what we're saying. It has to have a real and living connection. If it doesn't have a living connection, perhaps it deserves to die.
Yes.
Oh, terrible thing to say.
It is.
Terrible thing to say.
Then I guess it means that we must go deeper and try to find the right.
We have to find the right story, tell them in the right way.
That are going to move people.
You know, some of the great successes we've had here have been very unexpected.
Yeah.
Plays like Ten Bush, plays like Thirst, plays like The Girl in the Yellow Dress. You know, they weren't easy plays. One of them was a dance piece, vanguard tradition. But we got full houses for those plays because they spoke in a special way to us. So we don't have to just do entertainment that diverts our minds.
Yeah.
We can deal with real issues if we find the real form.
That's so true. And Malcolm, do you think that as South Africans we have our own form of theatre?
You know, we are part of the world tradition. We should never deny that. We've got 300 years of colonialism here. But what we have is a performance style that's quite rich and deeply felt, an African movement style, an African energy. And that African energy is understood all over the world to make our theatre special. And the great example was Albert recently, which we played for 6 months. I mean, look at the style of that. Huh? Look at those performances. You can't find performances like that anywhere else in the world.
Would you say that in theatre is there a form of racial divide? Is there black theatre or white theatre?
You know, we're a highly complex country with a really complex history. And so anybody who pretends that we've overcome our racism is just nonsense. But on the other hand, because of the struggle, which went on from the 50s all the way through to the transition, there is also a deep and mysterious commitment to non-racialism in the country. So on the one side, real racism, on the other side, a real commitment to non-racialism, and in the middle, a variety of forms that range from entirely white to really, really mixed up theatre and entirely black. And the market theatre, I think, is really remarkable because actually it can address all of these different audiences. It's quite uniquely placed. It's also one of the only theatres in the country that has a predominantly black audience.
And Malcolm, the buzzword in our country right now is social cohesion. How is the theatre playing a role in that campaign?
You know, social cohesion has to be earned. You can't expect social cohesion if you have people who can't pay properly on the mines, or we have such a crisis in the country as we have now, or we have such corruption within our ruling party that had such promise. Social cohesion has to be worked for. And I have a very particular attitude to it. I think that our theatre, one of our mandates in the market is to develop nationhood. So we have a mission to imagine how we can use theatre to imagine a nation of coherence and cohesion. On the other hand, theatre has to develop critical consciousness. And in my view, the most sophisticated mission is when critical consciousness, which seems critical and nasty and ugly about the state and about our condition, is actually understood to be nationhood. That's my view. Wow.
That's a mouthful.
That's a mouthful, sorry.
No, it's
but that's
very
what I really believe,
yeah.
because we're not going to make easy, silly pieces of theatre about how we all love each other.
Yeah, when
actually we hate each other.
Like that, yeah.
Or we
how
hate,
happy we are when actually we are.
Exactly. Or nobody's got to work and we're
Yeah.
pretending everybody has.
Exactly.
I mean,
That's
really.
so true.
I mean,
And
really.
there seems to be a particular kind of audience that attends theatre. You know, from your observation, what kind of people are these?
In our country, we've had theatre that's taught across class and across race for many generations. And I guess we are struggling now to understand who the audience is in the next 50 years.
Yeah.
Because, you know, there was a time when the unions would come to watch theatre. Theatre would play in union meetings. And there was a time when I did Sophia Town in 1986, the audience was completely cross-class, cross-race. And it spoke to all of those people at once. So theatre at its best can do that. But theatre now seems to be retreated or forced into a position of being something of an elite activity.
Yeah, but is it not that also, is the cause of that not the fact that it's expensive?
We used to say in the old days when people said, theatre's too expensive, we say, how much does it cost to cross from Soweto to Ellis Park with your pack of 6 beers and your ticket to go and watch
It was
the
just
soccer?
like a game.
Exactly. So it's not, people use excuses when they don't really want to watch.
Yeah.
And they don't want to watch if the work is boring.
Where would you say you see the theatre, or what's your focus on where the theatre would be in 5 years' time?
5 years' time.
Or maybe even 10.
I think, to be honest, we have a really big challenge at the moment, and that challenge is that we are there's a global recession, and it's affecting our spirit, it's affecting our pockets, it's affecting box office, and also I think that we have to be very, very careful about how we program. We have to program in a maybe more popular way than we have. So I think the theatre's got some big challenges.
Thank you very much, Malcolm. I think our viewers will be very, very much happy with the information you've provided for us today. I'm also quite happy as an actress to have a view from a person like yourself.
And let's start growing those vegetables.
Let's do that. Let's do that agricultural co-op. We can go far.
Thank you.
Ndiyathemba ke livile lonke ulwazi benifuna ulazi namhlanje ngoba imarket theatre iphathwa njani kuMr Malcolm Perky okwangokuseka kwintengiso sabanani xa sibuya hlalani apho ningayindawo.
Hi there, we are The Lab. We are a music group performing in hip opera. So this is opera mixed with hip hop. and we also do theatre. So all the music that we do on stage, which is musical, we release them on the net through social media.
We're bringing a fresh idea, which is opera mixed with theatre, which has never been done before. Look out for us.
Yeah, my name is Alfred. I'm from Kenya. Basically, I'm now a lecturer because I'm a student in the lab. So we decided to bring a little bit of spice in the theatre, involving opera music in the theatre, just to see where it can go. But we've got a great feeling that it's going to go somewhere.
Hi, I'm Marcus. I'm part of the lab.
I'm Salome Sebola.
Alfred McLaren from the lab.
We are the lab. Find us on Facebook at the lab.
Hi Dan, can you tell us a bit about the Zwakala Festival and its inception?
Okay, the Zwakala Festival has been going for, it must be nearly 20 years now. Originally, the Market Theatre Laboratory held what was called just the Community Theatre Festival. Community theatre groups from all over the country would converge once a year and present their work. It was a way of one community being able to see that they're not working in isolation, that there are other communities that may be interested in the same subject matter, and they get to know each other, so there was a sense of more community with them. And then the idea of the Zwakala Festival was that there needs to be development from that community theatre stage, because you don't want to be stuck in one place. You want that play to grow, to advance, maybe go on to the professional stage. So the idea of the Zwakala Festival was born to say that from the 50 plays that come to the Community Theatre Festival, let's take 10 or 12 of the best of those plays and give them a bit more of an intensive week, maybe with some mentoring. Maybe one play needs some extra lighting work. One director needs some help in terms of placement on stage, maybe some design help. Anything where the play could be improved. After the Zwakala Festival, then there was the sense that 1, 2, maybe 3 of the plays could go on to perform at the Market Theatre in a professional season. So there was this idea that you don't want to always be stuck just with a tag that says community theatre. Theatre is theatre.
Yeah.
There should be this opportunity where the widest possible audience gets to see it. But if you're under-resourced, you're under-skilled, you need some time to develop, to marinate, to stew that play a little bit so that it becomes more palatable for a larger audience, and there isn't the sense that maybe because it comes from the community that it's somehow lesser than other theatre.
Yeah. So tell us about your role here at the Market Lab as an education officer.
Well, as the education officer at the Market Theatre Lab, I audition young, talented performers who want to study. My job, I suppose, is to identify the appropriate teachers on an ongoing basis to make sure that the kind of training that we do is relevant to the needs of those students. That the kind of knowledge that you need as an actor is very much experiential knowledge.
Yes.
All the teachers that we employ are working professionals, so they're not teachers. They're people who are actually working in the business, so they have that very much a first-hand knowledge of the kind of skills that kids will need when they go into the industry. So basically that's what I do. I identify the teachers and select the students who apply. We try and think of ourselves a little bit more than just an acting school. Some people will think that we're an acting school. We like to approach the business of theatre as a multidisciplinary thing, because you need more skills than just performance skills. You need skills that include writing, directing, possibly dance, singing, design, stage management. So we like to focus on all those elements and how they interact with each other, because once you do your training, whether you do a year or 2 years, there's always going to be something that's still lacking. But at least if you have one of those skills that you can fall back on, your chances of getting a job are that much better. So you need to have a kind of multi-skilled, jack of all trades approach.
And do you have an age restriction of the people that you take into the school?
Well, we like to get people who have finished matric.
Okay.
We found that in the past, young people have thought, oh, I don't need matric. I can just go and do acting. You don't need a matric.
Yes.
And well, we've discouraged that a lot. To say that obviously we would like somebody who's got matric. If you're a little bit older, maybe you're 25 or 26 and you never did matric, you might say, okay, in those days maybe it was difficult. We still need a certain level of language skills, writing skills, reading skills in order to become a performer or a theatre practitioner.
Because also a large part of it is that learning scripts and learning lines, you need to have quite a good knowledge of language, and matric is quite a good base to start from.
It's very difficult to measure creativity just in one meeting with somebody. Somebody might have some hidden creativity in there. But if people are still young and let's say they're 19 or 20 still and they say, oh no, I don't need matric to be an actor, well, we discourage that. We say, listen, you really do need that matric. The job market out there is tough enough. And there are a lot of people wanting the same job. They're going to be hungrier and maybe more qualified than you are. So we take it from the approach that education is really important. We take the course very, very, very seriously here precisely because all the teachers have worked in the business. They've had a tough time. They know what it takes.
I'm an actress myself, and I know it's very tough. Here I am today. And Dan, can you tell us how long is the course and what kind of provision do you make for them when they do finish the duration of the course?
Well, up to now it's been a 2-year course. We are in the process of realigning it somewhat and looking at making it even a bit more intense in the first year. And then the second year will be almost by invitation or optional, so that we work more on a project-related basis. So possibly looking at mounting a production in Grahamstown and have a professional director attached to the devising part of it. Because an important part of the training for us is people making plays. The business that we're in is making new South African plays.
Yes.
And the experience of making a play gives people, again, that multidisciplinary skill set of being able to devise, to be able to write, to design, to understand the elements of production that go into touring a play. So it's kind of up in the air at the moment, but we hope that we're going in the right direction because we want it to be a more practical, a more intensive course. But we also want to be able to open it up and maybe even take some more students if that's possible because people are hungry for opportunities.
Okay, wow, that's nice. And how do you identify the different groups that do take part in the Zokala Festival?
That's probably the most complicated. We've got our spies on the ground all over the country. Yeah, no, we're in contact with people who practice on the ground. If it's in Kimberley, for instance, or somewhere in Mpumalanga, we have people who've either trained here or we have an association with people who may have been to the festival already, and they say to us, we saw this play the other day, or I saw a small sketch over there, there's a guy working there you may be interested in. And then a lot of the times people are actually phoning us to say, listen, we've got a play, how can you help us? So we then identify the appropriate field worker, a person who's got the time, and we send them out there to go and have a look before we go on a kind of ongoing development with them. We go and see what's happening on the ground.
Thank you very much, Dan.
Only a pleasure.
That was Dan Robertson from the Market Theatre Lab. He was an educational officer, and I hope that the information that he's given to us will be valuable to you.
Queen Ikamanale out a shy story. Ikamana to Joseph Queen Shabam. So we chose to take his middle name and title the show after his name. The story is based on a true story of Joseph Queen Shabam. He's a pastor now in a Coptic Orthodox church. So he went to exile, he fought for the liberation of this country. So we decided to tell his story because nobody is telling his story.
So many people, for what?
Why can't you compromise?
Nelson Mandela is not compromising ways. Dr. Sisulu is not compromising where he is. Oliver Reginald Tam is not compromising. Really? Yes, Commander.
What was today's lesson?
When you see a black man fighting a black man, you pass. But when you see a black man fighting a white man, you stop and help the black man to kill the white man, Commander.
Very well, comrade. Queen!
Yes, Commander.
Step forward. From today, your name will be changed to Lacoste. The crocodile that eats everything. Because you leave those stones unturned. Congratulations. You are now second in command. Are we clear, comrades? Yes, Command.
Siyanamkela khona abukeli kwinkqubo yethu curtain call kodwa ngoku ke funeke ndibuyele emsebenzini ndikhe ndiyothetha noClive Matibe oyijaji kwaye ozasirivyuwela thina namhlanje ngezwakala festival wamana iigroup ezikhoyo ziqhuba njani kolu khuphiswano masiyova ngaye.
Plays that really stood out for me this year was Mhlasalamana, as well. That's a play from Cape Town, as well as The Journey coming from Port Elizabeth, but from Gauteng, Queen, the Chosen One, also stood out for me. These plays, I think maybe I might be biased because I'm very experimental in my approach, and these plays took that kind of approach in the way that they were presented on stage. I think the plays that I put my money on is Mhlasalamana, The Journey, and Queen, the Chosen One. I think a show like A Curtain Call is really, really important to our theatre audiences out there, but not just to our theatre audience, but to our non-theatre going audiences. I mean, people right now are looking for things to do. You know, young people in South Africa post-apartheid are not just looking to go to clubs or to go to Shisanyamas and to, you know, do restaurants, but they want cultural experiences, and a show like this will let them know exactly what is happening so that they know where to go and check out those cultural experiences. I mean, Curtain Call would then obviously give a platform for shows which create debate around political issues, social issues, you know, keeping people informed about what's really going on and how artists feel about what's really going on. I mean, we saw with The Spear what kind of debate it caused around the country, politically, socially, and otherwise. You know, everybody was talking about that kind of thing. But what people don't know is that there's a lot of sphere of work of artists that are doing things like the Spear, excuse me. People who are doing social and political commentary in their work in theatre, in their work as artists, as in their work as in dance as well. And if people can just find out about these kind of things, just like they did about The Spear, then they would realize that theatre is really not far from them, and that performances is not far from their world, but it's just artists borrow what is happening in our lives and in our societies, and we put that work on stage and we create a social debate, and hopefully we will cause change which will bring about, you know, positive improvements and developments in our country.
Yo babukeli kuyasetyenzwa apha ku-curtain call kodwa ndiyalibonga kakhulu nibe nathi namhlanje kwinkqubo yethu. Ndiyathemba nilivile yonke into benifuna uyazi ngeMarket Theatre Lab kunye nezwakala festival. Kodwa kwangoku ke mna Sibongile Ngele ndithi baba yini sibonana khona ngexesha elilandelayo.